Have you ever wondered about life's biggest questions? Like, why am I here? What happens when we die? Or what else is out there? Well, we have, and we love to talk about it. And if you're listening, we think you probably do too. I'm Robin.
And I'm Karen. And we've spent our lives searching for those answers, and we're seekers just like you.
We'll be talking to some of the most fascinating spiritual teachers, healers, and scientists, and showing you how you can use some of their spiritual practices for yourself.
We'll also be sharing stories of other seekers to motivate you to live your fullest life.
And we'll be translating it all, so the spiritual stuff won't feel so out there.
So if you're curious, get ready to rediscover why we're here together.
We're picking up where we left off in part one of our soul connecting conversation with the brilliant and authentic Melissa Bernstein.
I view the world that you go through to get to your authenticity as like the resistance. And that is what you need to face because it's either going to push you back into inauthenticity, or you're going to say, nope, you're not holding me back anymore, and push right through it. And I think many of us don't make it to authenticity, which is why the number one regret of the dying is I never lived a life true to myself. That's like the number one on people's deathbed. And it's because it's not that they don't hear the cry of their soul. It's that they're too scared to heed it.
It's fear.
They hear it.
Fear.
It's fear. It's like, I just can't do it. Either my own internal resistance or society's resistance is just too great. I'm going right back into inauthenticity. And they go back there because it's safe. But a small percentage of us, like the two of you, say, I don't care. I can't do it any longer. I've got to bust out.
I know from me, on the surface, everything looked really good. And, I worked for one of the most powerful people in the world. I have a wonderful family, but yet I couldn't keep going.
Yes.
And I literally couldn't keep going. And I knew I couldn't live if I didn't change it. I just couldn't.
And one of the stigmas you and I face, and Karen too, is people think we don't deserve that luxury because we've made it. So because we have it going on, we have the material wealth, we have the picket fence, we have the dream, we have it all. Like, who are you to feel anything other than grateful? And it's I don't deserve to feel empty because I've got it all. And that's the stigma that I'm trying to overcome in my position. It doesn't matter what you have. In fact, people like us can have greater existential crises because we've gotten it all. We don't have any more hope. We're there. We've hit it. There's nowhere else to go other than more of the same. And yet it still didn't do it. That's when you truly fall into a deep existential despair, because now it's not coming from the achieving. It has to come from within. And that is utterly terrifying. So for me, it was even greater sense, because I always thought, when I get this, right? When I hit $500 million in sales, I'm going to have it. When I have 6 children, the Brady Bunch family I always wanted. When I have every material thing I ever wanted. When I have this amazing relationship with my best friend, I'll be happy, right? I'll be successful. I'll be happy. And then you get it. And it's comforting. There's no doubt you have great experiences, but there's still that, as you said, that sense of I don't know why I'm doing this. It's utterly meaningless. And it's exhausting you. You're not getting where you need to be because it's not out there. It's inside.
So many go through entire lives just feeling like they've got to get that resume, get to the top of their game. And to your point, then they look back at their lives and they know that was not really the reason that they were here. So what is your perspective, Melissa, on just soul and purpose? Do you feel like you came in with this specific situation in your life and that it was sort of going to be your catalyst to overcome and help influence others? Is that your perspective?
So my perspective has become really existential, and it's a very empowering philosophy. It's really been that we alone come into this world and can choose to make meaning for ourselves or not. And it's incredibly individual. So at some point we get to that plane in life and we say, do we want to make meaning? Do we want to sow those seeds of self-expression that are in our soul, not outside ourselves? And then it involves doing the work and choosing to do that. And I'm, a believer now that life is work. If you truly accept the full spectrum of who you are, which is the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, COVID has shown us life can throw us curveballs, and life will always throw us curveballs. And I think we need to prepare for that. Like, we need to build up our emotional resilience and our well of giving and compassion so that we can give ourselves love and give others love when we go through those tough things. So I think that we all have those seeds of what our essence is in us. Some of us know it. The one thing I'm really fortunate about is I know it. Like, I knew it from the beginning. I was hiding it and I wasn't admitting it. But like, for me, it's creating things that can touch others. And that gives me my purpose. It's being able to hand someone something, even if it's advice, something from my soul. For others, though, it's harder. And I think the goal of others' lives now, which is where I fall for them, is helping them figuring out how to take responsibility for their lives, stop wallowing, because some people are very invested in their pain and they want to keep wallowing. I'm big on you can wallow or you can engage. I'm about taking responsibility, finding that thing that is in you that transcends you and helps you engage in the flow of humanity so you can find your meaning, because you only find your meaning outside of yourself. And I think too many of us don't ever find that because it takes work. If you didn't find it in childhood and you lived a checklisted childhood and sort of did what you thought your parents or society wanted from you, you may not know it. You may be 50, 60 years old and still not know what your meaning is. And finding it takes a lot of trial and error. And, the canvas is blank. I wrote a verse this morning about this because I was thinking of the myth of Sisyphus. Have you heard of the myth of Sisyphus? Do you want me to share?
Definitely not.
I would like to hear.
So there was this Greek king who did a very bad thing. He cheated death twice. He was supposed to die and he did some secretive things and he cheated death. So he got punished by the Greek gods. And his punishment was he eternally had to push a boulder up a hill all day long. He'd push it up. And by the very end of the day, 11:59, he'd finally reach the top of the hill and then it would roll back down. And the next day he had to do the same thing for eternity. It's basically, and you can choose to make of it what you want, but it's really philosophical. And a lot of the existential philosophers use this as a story, a metaphor for our lives, which is basically our life is every single day pushing the boulder up the hill. And then the boulder rolls back down the hill the next day. And this is how I view it. And it's not until you can love every moment of pushing that boulder up the hill that life has true meaning. So for me, my metaphor for that is the blank canvas. And every day my canvas is blank. I can end the day with it still blank, which means I'm going to be utterly wallowing and what did you do today? Nothing. Look at my canvas, it's blank. Or I can fill that canvas with beautiful artwork. And at the end of the day, say, look at my canvas. It's really beautiful. I had a beautiful day. But then as I sleep, that canvas is going to become blank again. It's like the Etch-a-Sketch. It's going to be, going to shake it. It's going to be blank. And then I'm going to wake up the next morning and I'm going to have to do the same thing again. And are we up for that or are we not? And, that's really what life is. And to deny it's anything else is just avoiding the truth and putting your head in the sand. So that's an existential perspective and kind of where I am now.
That was beautiful.
I think that metaphor is going to help a lot of people. Just even that. I mean, just thinking of life and loving it, right? And thinking about, I get to do it over tomorrow, however good or however bad today was.
Here's something really deep. One of my favorite philosophers, Friedrich Nietzsche, he said, if you don't want to live your life over again exactly as it was, then change it right away, because otherwise you're going to be regretting. So you have to live your life in a way that you'd want to repeat every single day exactly as it was. Oh. So, and I think we live with such regret.
Yes, I think
all the
a lot
time.
of people do. I agree. I mean, do you ever think about past lives or karma or what happens after this lifetime? Do you ponder any of that?
Oh my gosh, so much. Because
okay, I mean, we do. So I'm just curious.
I'm still an existential nihilist in my core. I've just learned to my practice is not to be that. So I desperately want to be reborn. I desperately want to know there's another life past this. That would give me so much comfort, actually. So I think that thought that there might be is really very, very inspirational to me. And I think sometimes I write a verse and there are words in it that I've never heard and I have to look them up. So it's the coolest thing.
Well, you're channeling.
Right. So I feel like maybe it's like some channel and that means that, there's a circle somehow that's going to continue. What do you think about that?
I mean, we believe that we're surrounded by energy, and a lot of the energy surrounding us is our soul family. However you want to look at that. And, some people will say that there's angels or spirit guides, whatever you want to say. And honestly, part of it to me is our divine self, There's parts of us, I think, that don't necessarily even live within the human body. I think it's just around us, right? Helping inform us so that, I think we come in here with a purpose, and we have all of these boulders as part of our everyday to see how we're going to get through them, because we're in this lifetime to learn some specific lessons. And then I think hopefully if you learn the lessons, then you go on to maybe a different life or a different world or whatever it is. I don't think, as humans, I can't tell, but my soul feels like there's so much else. And sometimes it means coming back here to do things over because we didn't get it the first time or the second time or the third time. And what I know from my own experience and from my own, and I consider myself pretty normal-ish. Right. And my father passed away when I was 12. I can talk to him. I communicate with him. I can communicate with people I don't know for other people. I know that's possible because it's actually happened to me. I can see things and I don't know why I see them, but I trust them. I now trust myself, and I've met enough other people who I trust that are having these similar experiences that can do energy healing, that can do all of that, which is why Karen and I are doing what we're doing, because we want to help others have these experiences, because I know for me, they're validating and they help to answer these questions that I think so many of us have.
And I think so many people come in with these life experiences and they think, they were either born in a terrible situation or, had child abuse or were divorced or had issues with their children, loved ones. We all have our story, right? Of so many things that happen. But if you can look at them, if you can take a moment and look at each of those experiences, not as something that was inflicted upon us, but were opportunities so that we did grow. And when we did get to the other side, I always say to Robin, I want my life review to be really awesome. I want to be that person who's that 80-year-old in the rocking chair going, look what I did. Look what I overcame. Look at the, all of those experiences that I kind of got through and have a really good story to tell. Now, again, we've all been through really, really heartbreaking, difficult experiences. It's not like we want them to happen every day. But to your point earlier about having a life that is worth living, that if you have to go through it again, you're really proud of the growth that your soul has gone through in this lifetime, so that you can hopefully have a better one the next go around, but maybe you'll learn something different each and every time. And that's what we're hoping that these tools, these conversations can be about, that it's not like life is happening to you. It's that you're being given all of these opportunities to grow. And if you can give back to what you said before, what better gift is there than to try to uplift another soul with your own experience?
And that you're never alone, right? So even when you were feeling so alone that no one could understand you, if somehow you had the knowing that there was actually, you just couldn't see it, but there were these souls or spirits or energy or whatever around you, you wouldn't maybe not have felt so alone.
Absolutely. Well, the craziest thing is when I was a facade, right, at seemingly perfect, I didn't have any friends really, and no real friendships, no authentic friendships, and no lasting friendships, and no deep communion with anyone. And now that I've come out in all my imperfections, I laugh. My kids think it's so funny. I have so many friends. Like every day, someone's like, can we go for a walk? Can we? And they're beautiful. Like they're friendships I would have wanted my whole life. And now I like don't have any time for these friends. So I laugh so hard that when you show up as your true self, like your people, and they've just been like, it's like a moth, I'm like a moth and they're the light, or vice versa. It's like we're drawn to each other and it's so incredible. Like, I can't even believe it. Like if I would have known that all I had to do is be my real self and I would have had all these great friends, like I would have done it 40 years ago. Right.
Well, now you are a beacon of light that are attracting other people of light to you. And that's just going to infuse you even more. And you're going to be able to give so much more to others because you're going to be filled up with that.
Exactly. That is exactly right.
Yeah. So tell us about the Lifelines experience and kind of what you've put together as a result of this book.
Oh, sure. So we wanted to do more than, just tell my story because like we know how many folks out there are little Melissas feeling so alone and that they think no one will ever understand them. So this really is our passion project. Doug and I have been so fortunate in 32 years of Melissa and Doug, but actually it's about to be 33 years. So we wanted to give back. And this is based around kind of three, and you just said it before, three core beliefs. One is that we are not alone. Because, and it sounds so cliched. And when people say you are not alone, they never mean it. People said that to me in my life. And I was like, you're leaving me alone. You're not wanting to understand me in my darkness. I'm alone. So we aim to never have anyone feel that sense of aloneness. And I think our community is really warm. It's really welcoming. We accept people exactly as they are. We have many very low people, they're in a low state who come to our community and just listen. And it's beautiful. We're here for them. We are truly authentic. We're exactly who we are. And we've built a really nice community, I would say. Beautiful. And then the second important point is that we all have the capacity to channel our darkness into light and make meaning. And that became really, I'd say, the most important thing for me, thinking I was only darkness and could never find light, and in that very despondent state, and realizing that if I can, as an existential nihilist, can find the light and find a reason to live, I truly believe anybody can. And my goal, I can't carry their backpack for them because it's a metaphoric hike, but I can shine the light on what worked for me. And example is really important for many to change, to see someone like them who has found their way out. So I'm really wanting to show that example so they can follow me, hopefully right out of the darkness. And then the third, which became the last piece of my puzzle, was once I discovered all these things about myself, right? I discovered I have existential despair. I have all these hypersensitivities. And I was like, wow, that is why I can create. I needed to do something really important, which was finally stop racing outside myself for external validation and make that journey inward and accept myself for who I was. I now understood I was these things, but I hadn't yet offered myself love for it. So that was the first time ever that I said, I'm imperfect, I'm broken, I need help, because I knew I couldn't make that journey alone. It was too dark to face that existential nothingness at my core. And I'd been racing from it my whole life. So I finally enlisted the help of a trained professional who became sort of my partner in making this journey inward. And that journey inward to accepting myself in my totality of spectrum of emotions, like I said, the highs to the lows, became really the centerpiece of our ecosystem. And I call it, it's my journey. I call it the journey to inner space. And it's this deep journey that I took to really accept myself. And until we do that, all of us sort of make that journey inward and accept ourselves however we are. It might not be as dark as mine, but we have to accept ourselves. We won't really ever find that fulfillment or peace.
And all this is this experience is on your website now, right? Or at least the journey that people can kind of follow along. Robin and I were looking at it the other day, and it's amazing that you've just given this to people for free so that they can really jump in there and do the work at their own pace, regardless of if they have the money to do it or not. Because I think a lot of people, are afraid even to show up to tell somebody out loud. This is an experience that they can literally go on the journey in their own time, whenever it feels right to them at their own pace, which I think is incredible.
They really can. It's the exact journey I took. It took me 4 years, and you can't do it quickly because stopping alone took me like 2 years. I didn't know how to be in my body. I was in an incessant racer. So I think, when someone says, I took the journey and it didn't do anything, I say, you didn't take the journey. You need to take the journey again, because it means you spiritually bypass the journey. You took the journey in your head, not your heart. Because if you really take the journey, it isn't quick. It goes really, really deep. For many of us who've had trauma, it goes dark, and you need the help of someone to go there. Like I couldn't have done it alone. So it is an extraordinary process if you really do it, and you end up figuring out your essence, who you are, what your practice needs to be to remain kind of equanimous, and how you engage your beautiful sparks and how you engage with others to find that communion that we biologically crave so deeply.
Now more than ever, I feel like
Now more than ever.
we've all been so alone for so long.
People have felt so isolated, and or they've never been, even if they don't feel completely isolated, they've never had to be still for a longer period of time. And in the stillness, you start to really question, why am I here? And yes, why am I here in the big book? Like, how did I get here? How did I get here? Right. And, starting to think about, what do I do next? And some people, that part is scary, and people's jobs have changed. Some people have lost jobs because of COVID, and it really is an identity crisis. So I think having those tools and your book, it came at the perfect time for where we are in this world.
I think so, because, I think my biggest lesson for myself, and one of my biggest messages, is that anxiety is essential for growth. And what we do in this society, and what I did, is we feel anything that's not shiny and happy, and we immediately race the other direction, or we want to pathologize it and fix it. All the philosophers said that anxiety is the bridge between inauthentic and authentic life. There's no way around it. You go through it, or you live inauthentically. So I think COVID allowed many of us to finally touch that anxiety that's beneath the incessant doing. We were masking, right? We were masking the truth that most of us didn't have meaning in our lives, that were routine and in this pattern. Suddenly, when the mirror shattered and we were left with ourselves without all the doing, what did it create? Tremendous anxiety. The philosophers would say, yay, you are finally touching what it means to be human. But what does society say? Oh gosh, anxiety, can't feel that. Can't feel that. Go to the doctor, get rid of it, neutralize it, snuff it out, as opposed to, nope, that's telling me that something is going on in there that I need to investigate. And usually it is the fact that my life isn't fulfilling right now. And it means and to make it fulfilling isn't easy. I have people all day, they're saying to me, how do I make meaning in my life, Melissa? And I say, that's a really good question, sweetie. Unfortunately, you can only do it for yourself. I can ask the questions that'll enable you to start thinking about how to do it, but I can't make meaning for you. No one can make meaning for someone else. And until you're ready to say, I'm going to start exploring, I'm going to start investigating, I'm going to see what makes my heart sing, I'm going to try a lot of different things, until you start to do the work. I wrote a verse recently about salvation doesn't come and simply drag you off the sofa and engage you in the flow of life. You have to do it yourself. And that again is the perspective of we must take responsibility for doing it ourselves, which is a hard thing for most people to face because most of us are terrified. The fear makes us want to cower and like we want someone else to do it for us, or we want to blame people for not doing it for us, when in the end, unfortunately, it's up to us.
But it's like you said, we're taught from the very beginning not to do that. We're taught to do the thing that makes everybody proud of us and,
and the easiest thing.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, that what you said, I'm going to write that down because it is it's so simple about anxiety being that bridge between.
Anxiety is the catalyst, the only catalyst for growth. So you can understand now why we have such an issue in society, because most of us are seeing anxiety now as something to be neutralized.
Absolutely.
In the end, for me, I did this myself without any other tool. And my medicine now is my practice. And so I did this holistically because for me, I knew that like medicine wouldn't answer my questions of meaning and wouldn't give me the reason I was here. So it would neutralize the way I felt, but I knew I had to dig into that feeling in order to come to terms with it. So somewhere in me, even from a very young child, I was like, I have to slog through this myself. And it lifted once I did. And again, everybody's different. And there are obviously many chemical issues that absolutely need medicine to remedy. But I think the anxiety that comes from just being human and needing to find meaning is very normal and necessary for the growth.
And what is your practice? That's actually one of our questions. What is your practice now?
My gosh, I just finished it. I just finished creating it. It's brand new because I just really came through my journey very shortly ago. And one of the worst days of my life was I came through the journey. I had accepted myself in totality. I was like, here I am. I'm vibing my truth. Everyone knows who I am. Face of existential depression. That's me. It was like, that's pretty funny. From making toys to the face of existential depression. And then I was doing pretty good. I had a couple like really pretty good weeks because I was like, I'm doing this thing. And then one morning I opened my eyes and I'm like, ooh, I don't feel so good right now. I feel really low. And I was like, really, really low. I was like crying in my sleep, which I do sometimes when I'm really low. And my first thought was, what's going on? You did the work. Like, it's back. It can't be back. You did the work. You accepted yourself. Like, it's back. And I was like, no, this can't happen. When you've been in a really dark place, you always fear it's back. Like, it's back is because that could mean who knows what, you'll never emerge again. So I ended up having like my therapy appointment the next day, I think. And I went in, I was like, I don't get it. I did the work 4.5 years. Like, this makes no sense. This is unfair. And she was just like laughing. And she's like, I'm really confused, Melissa. Did you think accepting yourself in totality meant you were never going to have a dark day? I was like, yes. Doesn't that mean like it's every day supposed to be bliss and butterflies and rainbows? She's like, it's the full spectrum of emotion, right? Aren't you saying you're the full spectrum? Yes. What are you? I'm really high highs and I'm really low lows. And that became the fact that I needed a practice because I realized that accepting who I was in totality meant two things for Melissa. It meant I go into the bliss of creative imagination. And that is so beautiful and intoxicating. When I'm in that boundless expanse of imagination, I don't want to come down. I don't want to sleep. I don't want to eat. I am creating like a maniac. That's why it's mania. And if I stay up there, it's really unhealthy because I don't eat and I don't sleep and I don't want to talk to anyone. I'm like, get away from me. I'm creating. So I need something to pull me down when I'm up there for too many days. And likewise, when I go low, I go really low, so low that I might be swallowed by the darkness. And I need something to help prop me up. So that became my practice, which I call living life with ease. E''S, but it's actually EASE because it's 4 E's that make up my practice. It's energy, equanimity, essence, and engagement. Each one is really vital for me. It's my medicine because energy means I'm keeping my well full because I as someone who punished herself her whole life, I don't take care of myself and I don't know my boundaries and my limits. I'm really bad at that. So that has to become part of my practice. So I have enough energy to have this life force and do what I want to do. Equanimity. Oh my gosh, that's twofold. Equanimity is such a fascinating word because it involves first stopping. But the practice of equanimity is not stopping. The practice of equanimity is allowing whatever you're feeling, your emotions and your triggers to just pass on by and not becoming reactive to them. So the practice of equanimity actually means allowing everything, just not becoming reactive to it, which is so hard. So that is a daily practice. And I have a whole bunch of things I do to get there. Essence, that part I've done, but for many of us, it's really asking all the time, why am I here? What are my seeds of self-expression? What do I want to be expressing to the world? What makes me feel alive? And really defining it. And it changes. So I should say, I know it now, but it changes all the time because we want to express our essence. And then engagement is engaging our sparks, which are our essence, because sometimes we know them, but like, how do we ignite them? How do we harness them to bring them out to the world? And it's twofold. It's our sparks that are just play, like our hobbies and our passions and just doing fun things. And then it's our innate sparks that actually create our meaning sparks, not our joy sparks. And then it's how do we engage with others on a very deliberate basis? Because I'm an introvert and I could easily like go, if I'm up there in imagination, I might not see anyone for 2 weeks. And then that is also not healthy because biologically we are wired to connect with others and we need to. That's kind of the overall practice. I metaphorically have it in a backpack. It's my backpack of lifelines that I have to strap on every morning. And then whenever I'm sort of falling above or below the line, I take it off and I unzip it and I like pull out some of my tools.
At any part of those practices, do they involve like yoga or meditation? Is that all in there?
Yeah. So the practice becomes, we do workshops and it becomes your personal practice. So for like equanimity, many would have meditation and yoga. I have Vipassana, which is a form of meditation where you do a body scan because you're checking in with your body and kind of being present. So that's my form. But yes, it would be whatever for you allows you to ground yourself. And for me, it's a lot of sensory engagement through my senses, smelling something, hearing something. But yes, it becomes whatever for you is the most powerful. We talk about creating your own practice around these 4 E's. For each of us, it depends which one is more needy of our attention.
I had not heard of the term you talked about with scanning your body, but I was wondering when you scan your body, are you, in addition to the physical part, are you thinking about like your third eye or your throat chakra or any of that?
No, in that it's real. What it is it's the practice of equanimity. It means, wow, I'm feeling a lot of tension like between my eyes. It's just becoming aware and not focusing on it. And then you're immediately going down to your nose. And it's this checking in and allowing it to be as it is. It's really, it seems so simple. And I have a personal exercise that I created called Be the Sky. It's on the journey. I imagine myself being the sky because I think about what would the sky do if a storm went by? Would the sky be like yelling at the clouds, like, get out of my way. I just want to be blue today. What is wrong with you? You're in my path. No, the sky would just be like, okay, I'm here. I'm behind the clouds. Like the clouds are going to roll on by and then I'm blue again. And then they're going to be white puffy clouds. So I try to embody the sky and see everything that's coming up in my life as the clouds and try to become a witness to the weather pattern. And it's been really helpful. It's been one of my most helpful exercises because I don't become tethered to it and reactive. I just try to like take a pause and, if something's happening with my kids, which it inevitably always is, I'm like, okay, it's going to pass. And, in a few minutes, and it always is. Like I could have become really reactive and like gotten embroiled in something. And then like 2 minutes later, it's over. And I'm like, oh, that was the cloud that just went over there and it's gone. Yay. I did it.
That's I love that visual.
It's simple.
I love that
visual. Simple. Another really important one that we do is we call it our Hearthstone exercise. And to ground in our hearts, we come up with a tangible object that represents our grounding. And for me, it's a tree, and it's the roots are burrowed in my soul. And then my arms are the branches that reach to the sky so that I can simultaneously be rooted in the ground, but also have like my head in the heavens. So it's like I'm connected fully. And for me, when I'm untethered and I'm racing, if I close my eyes and I envision my Hearthstone, it brings me home.
It's so beautifully illustrated in your website. I love your website.
Thank you. I did every piece of it, so I think
Really?
When you've really done the work and you've had to adopt, because everybody's done these things. The journey is the journey. It's not like I made it up. And a lot of the exercise we use, we give attribution to, they're not things we necessarily invented. But I think as someone who's really simple, I tried to make it really simple for regular folk who have so much going on in their lives, and their heads are like, they're already like overthinking and ruminating. Like they don't need something more complex. They just want to like find some peace,
Where do you hope this goes next? Are there going to be products that you think are coming down the road? Yeah. I don't know if you can talk about that at all, but
I definitely can.
All right.
Yeah. So, I haven't before. So you're getting a sneak peek. Yes. We are creating, tons of tools to help in the practice of sort of remaining here in our lives, grounded and present. And I'm really excited about that because, I'm a product creator, and I love nothing more than taking something that I wish I had in my own life and bringing it to life. And I've made toys for kids for 32 years. And I haven't been a child, although many think I think like one, but I've had to put myself in the mind of a child. But now I'm creating tools for me. So it's so exciting that like all these products that I wish I had and I can't find, I'm creating. So I have about a 10-person product team. We're creating all kinds of tools that engage your senses. So that because it's only through your 5 extraordinary senses that you actually become present in the moment. And when I realized that, it was one of the most profound discoveries ever, because I thought I was present when I was in my head, because I was in my head like 99% of the time. And I realized I'm not even living my life when I'm in my head. I'm either in the past or the future. I'm like not here. So I have used mindfulness, which is like engaging my senses. That has been the way I've come home. And I wanted to make it easier for others to be able to do that. So we have a whole bunch of products. I think I have more ideas than Melissa and Doug, and I'm excited about that. And then, I want to really make this practice, I want to start from childhood, because we have physical education. Like, why don't we have emotional education? Physical education needs to be made into physical, emotional education. Things that we never talk about, we need to start talking about, because there is an epidemic of anxiety and depression in young people now. It's horrifying what's going on. And we need to allow folks to express how they're feeling and also kindle their sparks and not feel so much pressure academically. I want to be right in the mix, helping bring practice into young kids so that they are emotionally ready when life throws them a curveball. And I'm talking a curveball in my town is getting an A- or not making the baseball team. But these are things that are making kids want to end their lives. Like, that's how rigid and perfectionistic our society has become. And we have to show folks that it's not all about that. It's about these beautiful sparks that are in you. It doesn't matter whether it's a 4-year college or a business you start out of high school or vocational school. Like, it's about finding what makes your heart sing. And the sooner you can do that, the happier we'll be.
I feel so grateful that my daughter is in this world with you in it.
Thanks.
Really, hopefully they can have the tools because life, as you said, is always going to throw us curveballs, right?
Yep.
And they do start when you're younger, whether they're that small, or for me, when I was 12 and my dad suddenly passed away, right?
Exactly. And I now see, an incredible connection between what I've done at Melissa and Doug for 30 plus years and what I'm doing here. In the end, it really all comes back to play.
Yes.
And it comes back to that inner child that just wants to be exactly as it is, seeking joy with no reward, with no pressure. And when we find it in childhood, when we allow our kids to have a childhood and be able to find their form of play, it stays with us our whole lives. And if we can hold tight to that and allow it to manifest as we become adults, we will find that fulfillment each and every day. But I think when our inner child becomes submerged by society, by burden, by convention, by responsibility, then we fall into despair and we lose the reason we're here. So in the end, what I'm really doing is just trying to keep play alive from childhood all the way through adulthood. And for those who've forgotten it in their adulthood, try to unearth once again their inner child and sort of what has brought them joy at those times in their lives when they felt the happiest and the freest.
Oh my goodness. Well, and for many people who don't actually have children and haven't experienced playing with a child or playing with your toys, I can remember playing with my daughter with your toys and being like, God, I forgot what it was like to just play with these dolls, or I forgot what it was like to color. She wasn't in the lines. And I'm like, why do I think I have to be in the lines?
Right.
And it was just, for me, those were those moments, but not everybody has a child to play with. So having these tools that you're creating as adults to bring us back to that inner child, because that inner child's still in us.
Of course it is. That inner child. Yes. That's our essence. I mean, our essence is our inner child. Mm-hmm. So if we deny our inner child, we really deny who we are. And I think that what our society has become is so much burden and responsibility and pressure to be something we're not. We're denying that child who we are. So hopefully, we can be a little bit of the spark to get people back on really focusing on what matters.
At the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure out why we're here.
Yes.
Right. And whether it's, through your way of doing it, whether it's through someone else's, it's trying to find those tools so that people can discover that for themselves and not.
You are doing that. I mean, I think it's amazing, extraordinary what you've been doing. So kudos to you. I mean, that takes so much courage. And I think you should be really proud of yourself for doing something that you could have easily not done. You could have easily continued on that path. So I think anyone who has the courage to follow their heart and do something to touch others in a bigger way has done the ultimate.
I feel like I learned so much actually just talking to you.
At the beginning, you said that there was 4 specific symptoms?
Five.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you just tell me what those? I just want to make sure we grab that in case anybody listening is wondering if they have it. They will have that.
So there are 5 overexcitabilities or hypersensitivities, which are emotional, feeling everything so acutely, imaginational, really going in your head and giving animate and inanimate objects like personalities. Like I thought nature really, like I hear nature speak to me. It's pretty crazy. Intellectual, which is that incessant and rabid need for knowledge and asking why and curiosity and like voraciously reading. It's sensual, which is a heightened sensitivity of your 5 senses. So if you have a touch sensitivity or bright lights or loud noises or taste or smell, it can be one of the 5. It can be all 5. And then the hardest one to explain is psychomotor, which is like an internal revving of your central nervous system, which is almost akin to feeling like an ADHD, like you have to keep moving, like you can't stop. You talk quickly. You have the need to fill empty spaces with words. You just have this need to engage in sometimes in adrenaline boosting behaviors. You can't sit still. And it's just this heightened arousal of your central nervous system. Makes it hard to sleep,
And you were saying if you have one of them or two of them, is that what it was?
You could have one. I mean, many people have one, and and they're considered hypersensitive. Yeah, I happen to have all five just as acutely. It's like my nerve endings are on the outside of my skin in every sense.
I think that will be so helpful, as everybody's always trying to Google themselves these days and figure out, the diagnosis so they can get a fix. I think it's just really helpful to hear that. And especially as a parent too, because I think that describes a lot of symptoms of younger kids now.
When highly sensitive people, HSPs has been diagnosed. But when a parent comes to me, because that's the best talks I have with kids and parents, and I say, gosh, it sounds like he's really highly sensitive. They're like, yes, that's exactly right. And unfortunately, when we're highly sensitive, we're not acceptable in our high sensitivity because we're really dramatic. We're really worried and fearful, right? We're really negative. We're very emotional. And those are qualities that aren't that appealing. I have to be honest. We need to be schooled in how to handle people like that, because all I was ever called is you're too sensitive, you're too thin skinned, you're too dramatic, you're too emotional, you're too curious. Like you keep asking why, why do you keep, it was always that how I was being was something I was putting on when I was like, but wait, that's me. Mm-hmm. So when someone's like, you're too, it's like, but that's just me. A lot of
people who've heard that. For sure.
And and a lot of their kids are either suffering or being sort of trained out of that.
Exactly.
Like letting that be their spark, letting that be that.
Exactly. Because the other side of hypersensitive is intuitive. Mm-hmm. It's a great listener. It's like deep feeling. It's having this love of the arts that is just palpable. So if you look at the other side of your two, it's also going to mean like you're usually really creative, really intelligent, connect dots, find meaning. So, there's the other side of it is the blessing in it.
Yes. There's a huge blessing in all of it. So thank you for shining the light on that.
Oh, yeah.
And all of it. And you should know how much hope you give us in general, in being ourselves and in your responsiveness. Sometimes when you are doing something no one's ever done before, it can feel daunting,
yes, because of course it can. It better feel it. If it doesn't feel it. So one of my favorite words is the word, I created it because I couldn't find a word. I live every day exhilified. It's the combination of being exhilarated and terrified.
Oh,
and
I'm writing that down.
My motto is live life exhilified, because if you aren't feeling the combination of both, something's wrong. It means you're not testing yourself enough. So I think you want that combination of being terrified, but also, right, the exhilaration of who knows when you're trying something unknown. So when we started Lifelines, there was one day that I was like taking a walk and I suddenly was overcome by like this terror. And I hadn't felt anything like it in so long. I was like, what is this? I was like utterly terrified. And I realized, because I had been with Melissa and Doug so long, I had forgotten that feeling of sheer terror, like jumping into the abyss and not knowing. And I realized, holy crap, I'm about to do this thing and I'm utterly terrified. And I was like, oh, okay, you're feeling it again. That's what we've got to embrace, because that's the only way you'll do something that has never been done.
Yes. Oh. Yes. And the other word you kept using, which is like a huge word for me, is fulfillment. Fulfillment for me is helping others like you are. I mean, that's, I just want others to have those light bulb moments and figure out and find their fulfillment and find their purpose. And as you and I know, it changes throughout our lives. Like, and I love, and it's all on purpose. Like there's a reason you've gone through the darkness, you created the toy company, and now here you are.
If you just follow that sort of intuition, it leads you. And I think I'm glad ours is the exact same. It's to connect that essence of you with others to help, the circle. And by the way, the wisest philosophers of our time, they all said self-transcending, getting past yourself and engaging in the flow of humanity is how you find your meaning. That's it. It's engaging in the flow. And when you weren't feeling you were engaging in the flow was when you didn't feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And same with me. Even creating the toys, I was harnessing my creativity and giving kids a spark, but I wasn't engaging me, like who I was. Exactly. It was like a part of me, but it wasn't me in my truth. True. So it was like not quite there. And people are like, what do you mean? You're making
the whole company was your identity, right? It was like your name was actually on it. So
yeah, but it wasn't really the essence of who I was. Mm-hmm. So that's why it was like, and I couldn't figure it out. And people were like, how could you not feel it's enough? You have a $500 million toy company. And I didn't quite get it until I started doing this with no sales, just losing money. And like, it's doing it.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's a really great way to end.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. You can purchase Melissa's book, Lifelines, wherever books are sold or on lifelines.com, where you'll also find resources and tools if you are in need of help on your life's journey. You can also reach out to Melissa on lifelines.com. She would love to hear from you. Follow Melissa at Seek Lifelines on Instagram or Facebook.